It's not just me drinking non-alcoholic beers. It's the trend of 2021. But will it last? Welcome to the Brewmance on the radio. My name is Rob Hunter, joined by my partner, Mike Russell. And each week we gather around a drink, normally a beer. Mine's non-alcoholic. Mike, this month, though, trying something completely different. Mike, what are you sipping on today?
Yeah, going back to Jameson, but here's why I went back to Jameson, because they had the cold brew with the coffee, but this is actually finished in IPA barrels. Apparently in Ireland, that's a thing. So IPA barrels are a thing. So this is actually Jameson finished in IPA barrels. It's not technically beer, so I'm okay with that. So yeah, I'm in and ready to roll.
Very nice. And if you watch the video, you can find it on YouTube or on Facebook. You will notice Mike gave himself a nice hefty pour.
Yeah, it is a beefy pour, didn't it? Just kept. Sometimes you open the top and it comes with those little stupid plastic, governors on them, and this one did not. So I just. It's like if you have salad dressing like ranch or something like that, and you think that thing's on there, and it's not. And you pour it and give it a squeeze, and just all on your salad. Yeah.
Now, I have done that with our Slavo Salt sponsor before, because there's two sides. Slavo Salt seasoning, slavosalt.com. After the keyword brew, you get 15% off. So there's two sides. There's like the sprinkle side, and then there's the pour side. Yeah. One time I was making some rice, and I like to put a little Slavo Salt in the rice, and I opened the wrong side, and boom, it all came out. And I was like, ooh. And then I just mixed it around with the rice, and it actually ended up tasting fine.
It is fantastic. Intern Beans loves to have it on just pasta. Just plain pasta, no sauce, no nothing, just a little slabo on there. She's like, perfect.
See, it's literally the seasoning you can put on anything. So I dig it. So make sure you get yourself some. You will absolutely love it. This week, my non-alcoholic beer comes from Lagunitas, because even some of the big guys are now getting into the non-alcoholic game. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this tastes, because the reviews that I've seen so far say it's pretty good. So see how it goes.
Well, get after it, man. I'm all about this.
But this is the trend. I mean, we talked about a couple of weeks ago, there's a bunch of athletes that are funding Athletic Brewing Company, which is based in Connecticut, but now they're going to be moving some of their brewing to San Diego because they're growing like wildfire. So J.J. Watt is in on this. Mike's favorite, Lance Armstrong. I think I don't know if he's in on Athletic. I can't remember if he was tied to the Athletic brand or another one, but nonetheless, he's in there.
Can you cheat to make beer? I wonder if he'll figure out a way if you can. And I would be careful on a Lance Armstrong non-alcoholic beer, because he is a cheater. There might be some alcohol in there. He might just be like, ours is the best. We promise it doesn't have any alcohol in it. Cheater.
But see, this is the thing, because we talked a lot about seltzers, because seltzers kind of came of prominence 2019 going into 2020 and kind of lasted through the pandemic. And Mike's whole point the entire time was that this will not last. But you may have seen if you watched football in the playoffs, as we get closer and closer to the Super Bowl, which is happening next week, they've been running a lot of their Bud Light seltzer commercials. Mm-hmm. I think they even have a lemonade line. There's the commercials like, this is better than grandma's lemonade. And then grandma takes the family heirloom and puts it down the garbage disposal. So
that's what that is. I've only caught the part where grandma pours it down the garbage disposal. That's the only thing that's the only part of that I've seen. I didn't know what it was, but they're desperate is what they are. They put all of this into it. They went all in on the seltzers. And what are you going to do? You have all this production going on. You have all of this development that you put into it. You have all of this advertising that you put into it. You're not just going to walk away from it because it was a dumb idea. They're going to let it die a slow death, and it's going to be a slow death.
Maybe. We'll see. Now, this is what I think, but here's where I'll go with you for a minute, because just on an economic standpoint, you have so much competition in the beer game, and what the brewers are doing is adding more competition. It's similar to what we've seen snack foods do, because it used to be you just had Doritos. You had regular nacho cheese, then you had Cool Ranch. Now you've got like 19 varieties of Doritos, including the Tapatio Doritos, which if you like Doritos and you like Tapatio, straight fire.
Terrible.
Fire.
I had those, and I thought they were exciting, but they weren't.
It depends, because you can only eat like 5 of them at a time, and then your mouth's a little, and then you got to but that's a good thing, because you only want to eat 5 Doritos at a time.
I wonder if you put one with a Cool Ranch. You know how the Pringles are doing those stacking different flavors? If you do it with the Cool Ranch, which was one of my favorites, OG and Cool Ranch are my two. And so if you put the two together, that might be a good little combo.
I think that's a good idea. That's a good Brewmance experiment right there. We should try that out in a future episode of Brewmance on the radio.
And the Pringles as well, because their whole marketing, speaking of marketing, like Budweiser. And by the way, Budweiser's got the seltzer thing, because Budweiser's walking from the Super Bowl this year. So, they're not involved at all. And so I think they're just getting rid of a lot of the stuff that they had, including the seltzer. So you're not going to see a lot of seltzers around.
What about non-alcoholic beers? What's your gut feeling on non-alcoholic trend?
If they nail it, I think the Athletic IPA was pretty solid, and you had the Partake last week. I remember, and I don't know how the Lagunitas is going to do, but I mean, if the bigs really hit it and they do a lot better than the old NA beers, and they get closer to what beer should taste like, I think why not? Why wouldn't they stay around? That makes nothing but sense.
I actually ordered my first non-alcoholic beer in a restaurant. So we went to that Little O's, the Oso joint downtown with our buddy Justin, and we sat down and we were just, jamming over some stuff. And I was like, do you guys have any non-alcoholic beer? And they said, yes. I think it's Klostauer or something like that. It's the German company. It was the only one they had, and it was okay. I would like to see that next evolution where a place like Oso has non-alcoholic beers, because we've got some friends that don't drink anymore. Yeah. But like the idea of non-alcoholic beers that taste like beer. So that could be a huge opportunity for a restaurant or a brewery to either make their own non-alcoholic beer to welcome them in, or to offer as a spacer. Because as I'm drinking these non-alcoholic beers, I'm thinking about non-alcoholic beers as spacers. So that if I'm in public, because I have sometimes difficulty stopping, let me put it that way, where I'm like, all of a sudden I'm like, whoa, these beers went down really fast. If I have a non-alcoholic option in the middle, so I'm like, drink a beer, drink a non-alcoholic, drink another beer, then I feel like I've had 3 beers, and then I'm not, going down the hangover path.
I guess my issue is similar to that. Like if we're getting in the NA beers, then that would be the reason, but it wouldn't be a spacer, because I do, and I'm pretty darn good at it usually, is taking a full glass of water to the head between beers. Keeps me full. I don't really just pound the next beer, and I'm just keeping the hydration going. But I have gone one after another, and I can see what you're saying, Rob. But for me, the biggest challenge of not drinking beer, especially during the weekends when I have all my honeydew dad projects that I have to do, and I'm working around the house, building things and fixing things and all of that. It's weird, or grilling, for the love of grief. It's so hard not to have a beer. So if I've got to start a smoke, I got to smoke ribs starting at 9 in the morning. And I'm out there at I'm having my coffee, and it's a really cool vibe and this and that. It's like noon, 1 o'clock. I'm like, man, I like to have a beer, but we're not eating till 6. So starting with the NA beers would be a really good idea. So I'm just sitting there still having a beer, just relaxing. If it's good enough, it tastes good enough and tastes close enough to the real thing, then I'd have no problem with it. I think if they position it right in the market, I think it'll be just fine.
That'll be curious too, because everybody has different tastes about what tastes more like a beer than not. So what I've noticed so far in this month of drinking non-alcoholic beers is some taste closer to an actual beer than others. So, for example, the Partake is good, but after 2 or 3, I'm like, okay, I'm kind of good with this at the moment. Mm-hmm. But I like those because they're only 10, 15 calories per can. So the Athletic ones taste really like a beer. And I'll give you a little preview of this Lagunitas, same kind of vibe. It tastes like a beer. So it's pretty dang good. So I'll rate and review it as I continue to sip on it here on the Brewmance on the radio. But I think that is a good sort of test. You just got to find the one that you like the most, either to use as a spacer, or if you're going out and you have to drive, it might be a good idea to bring these instead, so you still feel like you're partaking in the activities and not sitting around just like, I'm the bum guy in the corner not drinking.
Yeah, and that's why I'm glad that one of the friends that went hunting with us last weekend before last, good grief it was. I think my time's just going. I know. When it went the last time we went hunting, it was cool that he's like, yeah, I'll try one of the NA beers. So it was like there was not an odd man out. Everybody was just on our break, having a good time, enjoying a beer, and especially when we were done, enjoying a beer again. And I think there was nothing wrong with that. And it was good that the NA beer saved the day.
And that'll be the key, I think, to where this movement goes and where it doesn't. Is it viable as an option for people that don't drink? But more importantly, is it viable for an option to people that do drink, that want to use it as a spacer, or maybe doing projects around the house and want that taste of the beer, but don't want to start getting sloshed by 2:00 in the afternoon that you might have to take a nap through dinner.
Here's the deal. I'm such a damn good cook. If I don't remember what I cooked, like, did we? Yeah, we had that. We had those ribs, didn't we? That's a bad day for me. That starts the wrong way. I could be completely hungover and not worried about the hangover, just more mad that I missed the ribs.
You don't want to miss the ribs. You
Never.
definitely don't want to miss the ribs. Certainly not Mike's. This is the Brewmance on the radio. His name is Mike Russell. My name is Rob Hunter. Thank you for hanging out with us. Hopefully you're cracking open something cold or pouring something in glass while you're listening to us. In a moment, let's talk big game. The Super Bowl is coming up. What you got planned? We'll dig in next here on 550 KFYI.
It is time for the big game. That's right. 1 week away from the Super Bowl. Yes, we actually had an NFL season, and it is time for a really weird, and I mean weird Super Bowl. But that means good drinks. That means good food. And we want to see what you're up to. But first, we celebrate solid drinks here on the Brewmance on the radio, Arizona's only craft beer radio show. Rob actually has a craft beer this week, and it is not an alcoholic craft beer. Tell us about it, champ.
Lagunitas' IPNA, their non-alcoholic IPA. And see, this was kind of why I was able to do this challenge, because I kind of set out at the beginning of the year and wanted to mentally challenge myself to see kind of how I tell myself, what kind of, I'll use the word excuses, how often I drink, what excuses I tell myself. Oh, I had a rough day. Oh, Mike and I do a political talk show here on 550 KFY. We're known as Russell and Hunter if you're joining us for the Brewmance. And some days you're talking about things, you're like, man, I need a drink. So, for example, in January, we had a presidential transition. We had the U.S. Capitol be breached. There were certain days I was like, man, I really want to drink. So I tested myself by not being able to drink. So I'm glad that there's non-alcoholic beers on this very long-winded story about why I'm drinking non-alcoholic beers, because a lot of them taste like beer now. So it's like, oh, so you're drinking the taste of the beer and not getting the alcohol.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I did something similar, but I didn't stop drinking because I do have that show with Rob, and I needed some of this. So Jameson Caskmates, apparently in Ireland, is the thing to finish beer in barrels, or to store beer in barrels. This was an IPA barrel finished whiskey, so it's fantastic. We'll talk about it at the end of the program as well. But it is Super Bowl time, and by the way, the Super Bowl's on the 7th, so I'll have my man Rob back drinking beer. Thank goodness, it's been a long month, champ. I wanted to have some good beers with you. I tried new beers. I gotta try this, and you can't try. But here we go. We're into this. So Super Bowl is the time. Like for me, it's just menu. I don't care who's playing. Menu, because I'm a Cardinals fan. They never get there. Menu. That's all I'm thinking about is what we're drinking, who's coming over, how many people we got, and how I can just blow them away culinarily. So that's what I've got going on. I saw an article earlier this week. It was a bratwurst that was cooked in beer with mustard is the ultimate Super Bowl meal. I'm like, wow, aren't you boring? Come on, step up your game, a skosh. Just because bratwurst was cooked in beer, which it should be. Beer and onions, which Rob is now not a fan of, but now okay with. Yeah, I've actually seen you evolve twice now. 3 times. I've seen you evolve culinarily 3 times. I saw you evolve to bacon. When I met Rob, I didn't like bacon, and I thought, how am I even going to communicate with this guy? What language he's speaking? Then the joy of that thin layer of fat around beef, if it's cut right and cooked right, it's just a wonderful thing. It's not something to be cut off. And now onions. I'm like, my man is coming around. I can really cook for Rob now.
And not to exclude the fact that we literally tried elk heart recently as well, which we have up for you on the Brewmance podcast. So we talked about it here on the Brewmance and the radio, but we've taken those portions of like the build up to it and then the actual trying of it to kind of walk you through that, see what it's like. We have a video coming out soon that'll show you exactly what elk heart looks like. Steak. Very yummy.
So good. It is so good. But this is it. I mean, this is a day where you just eat. It's like Thanksgiving with sports. Because I honestly, I'll tell you this, football-wise, I can't stand football on Thanksgiving. I'm like, it's just something that's in the background. It's in the way of what I'm doing because, I like to cook, and it's just in the way. It's just in the way of the day. This is Thanksgiving food style. I mean, just feast style with sports involved in it and good craft beer. I'm sticking all local, too. I'm excited about that.
Nice.
Are you going? Are you going to be drinking or what?
TBD. So here's what I've learned over the course of this month. I am somewhat allergic to brewer's yeast.
Okay.
So I have to figure this out because I'm trying to get my body right so that because COVID is an inflammatory disease. Most viruses are inflammatory diseases. So I'm trying to lessen the inflammation in my body. So after doing like a nutrition test, and I'm like, okay, great. I'm allergic to beer, my favorite thing in the world. Awesome. And gluten. So I have to figure out if I'm at a good level yet to be able to drink beer without getting too inflamed. And it has nothing to do with COVID. It has to do with my own health.
And the fact that we have a beer radio show.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Exactly. I don't.
But hey, they're making these. I know it's still made with brewer's yeast and
So you're allergic to alcohol, or you're allergic to beer?
I'm allergic. I think I'm allergic to beer. Like so I've got, and we're doing this whole thing. I'm doing this like DNA test, and I'm doing all these other things to try to optimize living the right way for my body. So it's this weird process of digging way too deep into your own DNA and your body makeup and composition. It's complicated and involved.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So we'll talk about that offline and not bore our audience. So, yes, back to can you eat anything during the Super Bowl? How about that?
I can stuff my face. Yes.
Okay.
That I can do. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right.
So TBD. I mean, I still got a week to figure this out. We'll see how it goes.
You have a couple days to figure this out. Your challenge ends in January. At least mine does. My part of it. I'm going right to challenge 2. I'm getting out of this.
February 1. Beer, crack it open.
Well, no, I mean, I'm actually going to do types of beer a month. So I'm just going to stick with hunt down the right type of beer and then see how it impacts my palate all the way through.
Nice.
Yeah. Like if I do stouts for an entire, I know I'm going to be drinking less and I'm going to be drinking, it's going to change my palate. So if I have an IPA the day after that challenge, it's probably going to split my tongue in half. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see what that's all about. But once again, I'm celebrating life, having a good time. And I know, I know it can end like that. So I'm going to have some fun and just different types of beer.
Boom. I dig that. You have a plan for what types of beers? Because there'll be 11 months left. Are there 11 types of beer? Or are you going to go until you kind of run out of beers?
Well, I mean, it's not going to be every single month. I might put different type of challenge in there in June or something like that. Who knows? But I think because we're in wintry, I'm either going to go with the leftover seasonals that go on sale for February. Boom. Look at that. Going to save some dough. Yeah.
Yes.
Or do stouts or porters or something like that for February. Yeah.
That's it, because I never really got into stouts and porters. I like to have one every now and again. So perhaps when I figure out all my health things, I will kind of jump in on a challenge like that. Like, okay, do a month only of stouts or porters because it's not my go-to.
Yeah.
Well-made beers, great. That's fantastic. But now that I like coffee, I might like stouts and porters more than I used to.
Okay, I just changed February. Coffee beers. Oh, yes, because those are usually, the darker the stouts and the porters. Yeah. I'm gonna do coffee beer because then, I could do the what is it? The coffee Kolsch
from Huss. Yeah,
it could be like a daytime beer for me. Yeah, all right, figure it out.
And that beer is fantastic. That's a great brunch beer. Huss's coffee Kolsch, fantastic brunch beer. So if you're going to brunch and you want to have a beer, tastes like coffee, and you're getting a beer at the same time. It's a beautiful thing.
It is a beautiful thing. Have you figured out what you're doing in February yet?
No, I have not yet.
All right. Is it going to be something like you're going to try to learn to levitate or something like that?
No, I did actually. I'm going to do no desserts in February.
Levitate? Oh,
no desserts. So that's what I'm going to try. I'm going to try a little page of Mike Russell's book.
Whoa, hold on a second. Are you serious?
Yeah.
Okay. So does dessert include Skittles?
Yes.
Okay, so no candy or sweets.
I'm gonna try to not have artificial sugar outside of, like, say, if I'm eating something for dinner or whatever that may or may not have it in it. But no candy, no cake, no cookies, none of that.
Okay, and so people know, you have to understand, Rob lives on Skittles, so it is. It's like Marshawn Lynch kind of stuff. I mean, the dude is all about a Skittles. So okay, buddy, I'm in with you. obviously, because I haven't had sweets or candy in 7 years. So, yeah.
I'm curious. I think that's going to be tougher than the no beer, the no alcohol push for the month of February, which I picked sugar because it's only 28 days. I'm like, I can do the short month on the sugar.
Like, trust me, it is. I'm not trying to discourage you or anything like that. I'm trying to get your mindset right. But yeah, dude, kicking sugar is harder than saying I'm not going to have beer for the month. Whoa, it's a big one. Your body's going to be like, sugar's the most addictive thing in the world. Period. We're all addicted to it. It's something, yeah. But the cool thing is you'll taste the sweet in everything. That's what I think is going to be the biggest change for you. That's the biggest change for me. Like I can have a handful of like mixed nuts or something like that, like almonds and cashews and stuff. It's sweet to me. It tastes sweet.
Which might make the next conversation interesting because we're going to talk about turning gluten-free Oreos into beer. So this is going to be fascinating because this is going too far. Are we going too far in the craft beer world? We will talk about it with you next, right here on the Brewmance on the radio, here on 550 KFYI. Would you try a beer made with Oreos? What about flaming hot Cheetos or tortilla chips? Brewers around the country making those moves. We want to tell you all about them here on the Brewmance on the radio, Arizona's only beer radio show. Not drinking beer this week. Well, at least beer with alcohol in it. I'm going non-alcoholic. Mike is going spirits. Mike Russell, what are you drinking?
We're drinking Jameson's IPA edition. They're Caskmates. This is Jameson whiskey finished in IPA barrels, which once again in Ireland, I guess is a thing. This is the second Jameson that I've had this month, and the first one was so dang good. It was such a great partner with coffee. Oh, please, the cold brew, stop. Yeah.
I want to ask you at the end, next segment, when we do our reviews, because now that you've done spirits, the difference between them, because you've had kind of two whiskeys, a bourbon, and a tequila. So I really want you to compare the whiskeys so far in the bourbon and which one you like best, and then what turns you into a tequila drinker, which we give a lot of credit to Tequila Jim. But I'm curious to see how that involvement has been. And I'll do the same. I'll walk you through the 4 non-alcoholic beers that I've had and which one's my favorite. This one's Lagunitas' IPNA, their non-alcoholic offering. So it's very interesting because, as you see, craft brewers are going in many different directions. And craft brewers, when you talk to the brewers themselves, they are mad scientists. They love experimenting. They love trying new things, making new beers, coming up with recipes. It's like cooking. So Mike is fantastic in the kitchen. He's fantastic on the grill. And he's tinkering with recipes. He's trying things all the time. Brewers are the same thing. It's being an amazing chef, people that try new things. But I'm not sure about putting gluten-free Oreos into a gluten-free beer or a tortilla tip beer or flaming hot Cheeto beer. I'm not sure about those.
Yeah, the Oreo I can get down with because there's a lot of chocolate notes in beer. There's a lot of cream notes in certain beers as well. So combining those, I think, are fantastic. And you are, if I remember right, you are an Oreo junkie, right? Yeah. Yeah, so is my wife. That's the same thing. It's just if you can't hide Oreos in the house, she is like Boba and Django. She's like my hunting dog. She will find.
I'm the same way.
Destroy them. Yes. So that doesn't seem like anything to me. Our friend Carrie is doing the anti-gluten thing. She does no gluten, and she was very excited too. And I haven't seen the report back. She said I'll be reporting back on how good they were, but I'm sure they're okay. And, beer's great. So I've had gluten-free beer before, and it was fine. I didn't even know it was gluten-free beer. It was the Stone Delicious IPA.
Yeah.
That was gluten-free. So I think this type of a beer is there's nothing wrong with that. But then you start tiptoeing into the flaming hot Cheetos. No. Don't jack with Cheetos. Cheetos are perfect as they are. If you bring a puff to my house, a Cheeto puff, I will send you packing. I don't even know what that is. Why you even made these things? It's like a rice cake Cheeto. It's not even cool. And then now flaming hot. Why would you want to do that to your mouth? Enjoy a Cheeto.
I want to know if it leaves, you know how you have Cheeto hands if you eat Cheetos? I want to know if they did it enough where you have a Cheeto mustache.
It's a little flavor saver.
Yeah, exactly.
The stuff that gets on your hand, they've named it. Frito-Lay has named it. They've named it Cheeto. It's Cheetle. Yeah, you got the Cheetle on your hands.
Gotta have it.
Yeah, it's not, I just say schmutz. I go with the Yiddish stuff. You get a little schmutz.
Yeah, just wipe it off. It's fine. See, I'd be curious to try these because this is kind of what they become. They become novelties. And not often do you get a chance to try them because craft beer is essentially locally sourced. Now, there is some distribution. So, for example, Tower Station comes down from Flagstaff, and you can buy that here, and they'll expand to other states. I'm not sure if they have yet, and that's fantastic. But for a craft brewer to get a national imprint, which Lagunitas does have, but I think they're owned by one of the big guys now, so it's easier for them to distribute it. So that's why these are hard to find, but that's also helps sort of create a news story, if you will. And what I mean by that is if you're creating a flaming hot Cheeto beer in your brewery, it might attract some attention. So I'm okay with this in a limited batch. I'm okay with it as experimentation. And I'm okay with it if it draws people, especially now in the time of COVID, when we're not going out as much, when people are being very cautious. So I kind of dig the idea, but that doesn't mean I necessarily will try everyone out there.
Well, come out with a stupid beer 6-pack then, and then I'll try it. But if I'm trying to hunt these things down, I'm not. It just doesn't even appeal to me at all. If it came in a 6-pack where I could sit down for a day and say, "All right, I'll do some stuff for Brewmance. I'll film this in flaming hot Cheeto nonsense." Go for it. Tortilla chip beer. Tortilla chips are just bland. So what are you saying? You made bland beer? Because tortilla chips are not meant to be really good. They're meant to be vessels to put guacamole in my mouth. They're vessels to hold chili, cheese, and jalapeno or green chili, something like that. That they're only holders. I don't know what I could probably hand you a normal beer and say, "Yeah, this is my tortilla chip beer," and it tastes like beer. Exactly. Because nobody takes a big old scoop of guacamole and takes a bite and goes, "Whoa, that tortilla chip is amazing." No, they say the guacamole is amazing because that's the only reason you're supposed to have a tortilla chip, to get the good stuff to your mouth.
That's true. It seems odd that would be the main ingredient in a beer, but I can see it. Okay, flaming hot Cheetos I get because it's different. It might add some heat. I don't know what kind of properties it would put in the beer. I get that. Oreos, I get it. Yeah, the tortilla chip, I agree. Unless you're going to do a tortilla and salsa Mexican lager where it's got a little spice to it or something like that.
Like tomato, probably would, like the clamato and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I could see that, but just I get it. The tortilla chips alone, I'm like, that doesn't excite me. It's not even crazy enough for me to go, "Ooh, that's an interesting concept."
But now in the craft world, the cool thing is that, as far as I can tell, I know there was a lot of casualties, but the virus did not, or the reaction to the virus, governmental, there we go, thank you, reaction to the virus killed a lot of breweries, but did not kill the craft beer industry. So those that were really fighting for shelf space, really fighting to grab people's eyes in the stores, and really pushing like the brewery that's making flaming hot Cheetos or gluten-free Oreos, something like that. That's an eye catcher. That's something that can really help you stand out. So not anti, but I see what they're doing. But tortilla chips, come on now. I wouldn't even see that even at a super cool logo on it, because I'm a logo nut. If I saw that, a tortilla chip.
Yeah.
Not excited.
Mm-hmm. Now, I do want to give kudos to the stores that did actually allow some shelf space for local brewers. That's something I don't think we've talked about a lot. It just dawned on me when you said that, Mike, because the big box stores are huge. The big box, brewer, the Total Wines and the Bevmos, but even the Safeways and the Fries of the world have made more space for local beers during COVID. So again, it's sort of a teamwork. Now the demand obviously is there, and you go to Fry's like, "Hey, I want this beer." Maybe it was, "Oh, we're listening," but maybe it was them saying, "Okay, we want to help you out," because it helps everybody out. The more businesses that there are, because there's more people that make money, more people that spend money. So, for example, if breweries stay open and keep people employed, those employees go to Fry's and buy groceries. Yeah. So it's beneficial for Fry's to have 100+ breweries in the state of Arizona, because you have that trickle down effect. And I think we were told by the Arizona Craft Brewers Guild, there's like a 10-to-1 for every employee in a brewer. There's like 10 other employees that delivers barley and hops and all these things to breweries. And then there's, cashiers and so on and so forth. So you got to keep that in mind, that there's this big trickle down effect, that to see local craft beers on the shelf in a local store is pretty awesome.
It is. And there's only their own little section in some cases. And I understand the problem with, especially here in Arizona, the distribution laws are just daffy. They're so dumb. Mm-hmm. And it's such a challenge. And I will tip my hat just a little bit, just a skosh, to the officials that changed a lot of the liquor license rules when the shutdown happened. That was impressive. That was quick. That happened not in a very government way at all, because it was quick and it just went, and they weren't being total hounds about it. They were letting people survive. And so I guess that along with stores allowing shelf space, I think that helped save the local craft beer world. I don't know how other states did it, but at least here in Arizona, I think we did a heck of a job on it. I love going and seeing the new stuff. I think it's great.
It is.
And I'm a West Valley guy. So understand, we don't have a lot of breweries out here. I think there's 4 options that we have. So the majority, I'm like, oh man, I can't drive to Gilbert to get that. Come on. So, oh my gosh, there it is. It's right there on my shelf right here in Goodyear. So, I think I'm excited about that at least.
No question. And it does prove one thing: government only gets in the way of innovation. I'll say it. I believe it. It happens in the craft beer industry because the fact that the government had to remove rules to allow craft breweries to survive proves to you that the government is always in the way, especially if you're a small business owner. Big business.
One of our other shows too.
We do. But it's a fundamental belief that I have. I understand we need some regulations, but we should really go through them all and see if any of them actually make sense.
Rob said that on our other show on Wednesday. That's what
he did. Exactly. In a moment, we are going to review our Spirit of the Week from Mike and me. I will be drinking the Lagunitas IPNA. We'll tell you all about them and wrap up our month of this challenge in just a moment here on 550 KFYI.
Well, here we are at the very end of our month-long challenges. Well, how'd it go? Brewmance on the radio. Thanks for being here. He's Rob Hunter. I'm Mike Russell. Each and every week, we gather around a local craft beer of the week. But this month, we chose to do something a little bit different to challenge ourselves. I went with spirits. Rob went with NA beers. And you just showed yours. I like what they did there. The IPNA from Lagunitas.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Pretty cool way to do it. And it's pretty good. We'll review it here in just a minute. And I think I've done 4 of them throughout the whole month. And I've had a couple others off camera, off radio. I'll tell you about those too.
All right. Well, I'm excited to hear about them. So I'm rolling with the Jameson Caskmates IPA edition. Whiskey essentially just finished in IPA barrels. So I'll tell you all about that in my journey as well. Now, Rob, you stayed straight and narrow all the way through this. You did not deviate. You did not spill. You did not say, you know what, I'm going to do something else. You went all the way through. A, great job, pal. Very proud of you on that. And B, what'd you find?
I found it was way easier than I thought it would be. The biggest challenges I had with not actually drinking for a month was Saturday afternoons. So before the show, sometimes I like to crack open a beer. Like you wake up, get your workout in. So after the workout, sometimes I like to have a little warm-up beer around 1 o'clock. And then we come in and we do the show and have a beer and we call it a day. So that was the biggest challenge. There was one day, Amy and I were Lady Brewmance out walking around the neighborhood. And I decided I was going to do a little hike. So I walk up into the mountain area and I go up to the top of the mountain. I come back down on the mountain. It's not a huge mountain. And then I come in the house. I'm like, man, it'd be great for a beer. And that was like January, 3rd or something like that.
Yeah.
So I was like, woo, okay. So that's a challenge point. And then a couple of weeks later, same kind of thing. I had another challenge point. But overall, it wasn't as difficult as I thought. And I think that's because the non-alcoholic beers that I tried for the most part taste like beer. So it wasn't like I was giving up beer completely. I still had the taste of beer.
Okay. Well, yeah, I think so. It was that. I know a lot of people that like I used to dip and I dip when I hunt, but I don't have that addictive personality that I can't just stop when the hunt's over. I do. And I know a lot of people, it's just that motion. It's that cup and spit kind of having something in there. So that helps them wean off of that kind of thing. And that's probably the same thing. Like it helped you through your journey because you were technically still drinking beer. Your body was just going like, hey, what's up? I don't feel this.
Exactly. And that was the weird part too, because we were hanging out at your niece's and your son's birthday party, and I brought non-alcoholic beer. I brought Athletic Brewing Company's IPA, and I had like 3 or 4 of those. And it was weird because that was in the social setting. I'd never done that before with non-alcoholic beers. And I was like, okay, but I'm still having a good time, still feel like I'm drinking beer. But it was odd to not go, oh, I probably shouldn't drive home right now. It was, oh, I can drive home because these are non-alcoholic beers. And I also think I realized I'm stronger mentally than I thought I was. I thought I would easily fall back into habits of, who cares? It's just a challenge. What are you doing it for? I never had a moment where I was close to slipping. I had some urges. I had some excuses that I used to kind of go towards those urges when it comes to beer. And that's why we're going to switch to sugar next month, because I probably have stronger urges with sugar and stronger excuses with sugar. So starting with beer is a good starting point. We'll see how we do next month with no sugar.
And see, going through this, the good thing about it, Rob and I have been friends this long. Rob and I are family. So I know Rob's going to be a little grumpy in next month's journey. So I know because I've been there. So it's all good, buddy. I'll be there. I'll help you along in that. I took a deviated path though. I started with the just straight spirits and realized that I do enjoy having a beer while I'm doing projects. I have a lot of construction things going on. And when I say construction things, I was like building like chairs, like, gaming chairs for the kids and things like that, and doing yard work and putting grills together. I'm like, you know what? And grilling. I grill for a long time. It's not like I go out there and we grill for 10 minutes and food's done. I take it low and slow. And having a beer there is important to me because it just adds to the flavor of what I'm doing and the experience for me. So I switched to spirits during the week. And then on weekends I could have some beer. And it's been cool because I like coming home. We get home at like, 8:30. And so when I get home, I don't want to start slamming beers. I just feels it's not even a desire for me, but I would like to have a drink. So, hanging out with the kids for a while, seeing how their day was, showering up and then having a nice bourbon or something has been fantastic. And I think I'm just going to keep with that whole program right there. Just keep with the beers on the weekend and obviously, for our show. So we're going to be doing what we do. But yeah, this is I like the spirits during the week. It's fun.
So what did that change for you as far as mentality and saying, okay, I can have probably one drink, maybe two, like a smaller pour. And you're like, okay, I got to pour. Does it help you sleep better? Is it a different feeling when you wake up, or is it just something different to do?
Knocked out. It was fantastic. And for me, I big boy TBI, a traumatic brain injury. So for me, sleep is difficult. Mm-hmm. And so if I can find something where I can just have a drink and a half, 2 drinks, whatever it is, and not have to have like 5-6 beers just to make myself pass out, this is great. And I love it how it's just such a mellow, little warm, just feel good. You just slide in the bed and this is just so nice. And I wake up, I sleep better, and yeah. I'll have no problem admitting that. Yes, I have some wonderful spirits to sleep better.
That helps. I mean, that's the key, because I know that you basically deal with head pain 24/7. So imagine trying to fall asleep. You have a massive headache every day, every night. So that's obviously a difficult thing to do, just being in a natural state. So that's interesting because you tried a tequila and you tried 3 whiskeys, one of them being a bourbon.
Yeah.
What stood out to you about those? Because you had the 2 Jamesons, one finished in an IPA barrel, one's cold brew, which you love cold brew coffee. The other one was bullet bourbon, and then what was the Fortaleza
of tequila? Yeah. So the Fortaleza of tequila, I figured that I realized that I reached for the bourbon and the whiskey more than I would for the tequila. The tequila is kind of a in the mood kind of thing, but it's fantastic and I love it. It just kind of it's its own little vibe, and I think for me the atmosphere has to be right. I think a bourbon and a whiskey is just something kind of you can have before have after dinner, things like that. I like that. The cold brew belongs in coffee. I think it was made for coffee. And all right, this is an alcohol show, so I'll say this: the best hangover cure ever. I mean, a little bit in the coffee, and you're right within it. It is it. That Jameson cold brew and cold brew coffee. Forget about it. Good
nice.
So, yes. And then you, my friend, you were actually experimenting outside of the show as well.
Yes. So I tried, I think 5 or 6 different non-alcoholic IPAs. I did 4 on the show, from the Heineken to an athletic brewing company to this one's the Lagunitas IPNA. It's just like it is with beer for me. IPAs are my go-tos, so the non-alcoholic IPAs are my favorites. The athletic brewing company's beer, their non-alcoholic IPA, tastes like an IPA. Partakes is pretty good. Their pale ale, I think, is better for me, for my taste buds. The Heineken, it's a well-made non-alcoholic beer. It just tastes like a Heineken. So if you like Heineken, you'll like their non-alcoholic beer. If you don't like Heineken, you're not going to like it. But I think the quality of them is what impressed me the most. that you go to now Total Wine, there's a whole section of non-alcoholic beer, and they're pretty solid. They're well made by some local brewers, not local Arizona, but a local brewer. Some of them have a national imprints like Athletic. Some of the big brands like Lagunitas are doing it. Like this one, I would drink this in just about any sitting because it's really good. So, I mean, I'm just going to give you an 8.5 Lagunitas for your non-alcoholic beer. So I put it up there with the Athletic. I mean, those are my two favorites, the Athletic IPA and this one so far. Lagunitas is IPNA.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm not going to compare each of the drinks against each other because that's like pitting a ribeye, a New York strip, and a beef rib. It's just okay. They're all good. So I don't have a favorite. So I would say this, that I like what Jameson did with the Caskmates, what they did with the stout barrels and the IPA barrels. I really like what they did because it brings the beer drinkers going through the aisles. It goes, hey, beer drinker, shh, come here, check this out. Gonna get it dry. And it them in, and I think it's great. I love the stout. The IPA, I'm gonna stick it in 8 because it's really good. It's really balanced, but it's a little sweet for me. So the stout, I would say, is a little better. I'd probably get that in 8.5, 9 category. But this is a little too sweet for me because, like I discussed earlier, Rob's going to kick sweets next month, and it's you taste the sweet in everything. Like you will know that something that looks like it doesn't have sugar in it. You'll take a bite and you go,
whoa.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's a little sweet for me, but still, it's a one heck. Trust me, I'm buying it again and again and again. So get it. Check it out.
And that's a good way to kind of progress, is to try new things, get outside of your comfort zone, which is exactly what these challenges are designed to do for us. So maybe you're joining us. Let us know. Reach out to us on our Facebook page. Just type in the Brewmance. You'll find us. Brewmance.beers, the website. On Instagram, it's the _Brewmance. You can DM us there if you would like to, or send us an email. cheers@brewmance.beer. As we kind of move forward, Mike's mentioned he's going to do beer months. So if you have any suggestions for him on that, let us know. Also, check out the Brewmance podcast, available everywhere you get podcasts, separate from this radio show. You will enjoy it. Don't forget to go to slavosalt.com. Buy the best seasoning on the planet. Keyword brew. You'll save 15%. For all of us here at the Brewmance on the radio, that's Mike, that's me. We'll talk to you next week, 6 p.m. Saturday, 5:50 KFYI.
Cheers, everybody.